மறக்காம சர்ப்ரைஸ் பண்ணுங்க. Thank you.
Okay, well, this is the section of the DVD where we cover unusual systems by White, deviations from the main lines where White is unwilling to engage in a theoretical debate and goes his own way. I've tried to cover lines here which I think will crop up relatively frequently. I mean, we could be here for days looking at all the sidelines, most of which aren't really very good, and life is short. So let's stick to practicalities. If I miss your favourite quirky variation out, I'm sorry, but we have some limitations on time. At any rate, we're now going to deal with the move 3 knight c3, which is not so quirky. It was a favourite of the late Paul Kearis, and White is basically relying on active piece play to compensate for his, let's say, weakened pawn formation. I think Black should certainly take that knight. And now it's pretty clear that White has a fundamental choice to make. We're going to look at both of his captures here. The first game I'm going to use comes from the Moscow Open tournament in 2006. It's between Alekhine with White and Dowdoff with Black. And in this particular game, White chooses the less common capture on c3, b takes c3. It's pretty clear what the idea of that is. White's going to play d4 and station his pieces as aggressively as he can, mount some sort of kingside attack. Long term, if Black can stabilise the position, the chances should favour him. So with that in mind, I believe the next move is the best one. d5, and then after White plays d4, Black goes c5. I think this is the best way to play, to create a kind of Caro-Kann position where, you know, Black is focusing on White's weaknesses, and White really has to justify in this line, in my view, why he's got such a weakened pawn structure so early in the game. Well, active play is the order of the day for White, but perhaps bishop e2, White's next move, slightly contradicts that. However, already White is feeling slight pressure because Black's probably threatening to go bishop g4 here, then e6, then queen out to a5, maybe queen to b6, something like that. White already has these pawn weaknesses to worry about. So it's not at all easy to suggest what the right move might be. For instance, bishop d3 looks right, but that might just be a clear misplacement of the bishop, given that Black can hit d4 so quickly. c3, and maybe Black's got c4 in the wings there. So bishop e2 was played, and of course Black plays bishop out to g4, which is very, very common in this line. And now White plays rook to b1. I'm pretty sure Kearis liked this line because of the open type of play that White gets, free piece play. Of course, in those days we didn't have computers to help us. We didn't have the information revolution, which is besieging chess at the moment. And so Kearis was able to play like this. He was able to surprise his opponents, and because he had such a natural gift for combinations and tactics and a feel for the initiative, you know, he was able to win games with this variation. But these days it's not so easy. So whilst rook b1 looks like a good move, in fact I think Black is able to just simply play rook b8 as he did here and stabilise matters. Well, anyway, Alekhine continued in the spirit of the variation by playing e6. I mean, this is the type of thing White should do in this line. Of course, Black has to take that. And now White carries on with bishop f4, which at first sight looks very, very dangerous, because after rook c8, as happened, the White rook gets the chance to come down there to the 7th rank. And this does look dangerous. However, as we'll see, Black's position is far more resilient than it looks, and furthermore, I must emphasise the long-term strength of Black's position. If Black manages to consolidate the initial attack, then he will have excellent winning chances. So c4, I think, is correct, shutting down some of White's attacking possibilities with the bishop on e2. And White must continue in aggressive manner, and this Alekhine did with knight g5. Alright, a careful move by Black. Bishop to d7. And White carried on the aggression with bishop h5. g6 was played, and White played bishop g4. Black took on g4. Queen takes g4. And at this stage, I'm pretty sure that if you just set this position down in front of the average player and said, well, what do you think's going on here? He's bound to say, looks like white's building up some sort of an attack. Which, it to all intents and purposes, looks like that. But as you'll see, white doesn't really manage to fasten on black's position at all here. And after bishop g7, it may well be that black is just simply consolidating. After which, well, as I said, the long-term prospects do favour him quite substantially. So both sides castled, and white played queen g3. Queen out to a5. And around here, white probably started to feel that his attack was, well, if there ever was an attack in the first place, was running out of steam. And now you see the kind of defects in this line from white's point of view. If black can achieve a move like this, he kind of effortlessly gets a winning position because of all the pawn weaknesses in white's position. So queen a5 is obviously a good move, and white for the first time in this game has to start thinking about defence. So rook b2 was played. Okay, h6, a useful move because it drives white's knight back to the edge of the board. Knight h3, not an ideal square. And now another fairly careful move, king h7. So it seems that care is the order of the day initially for black. Then after that he can look to his better pawn structure to furnish winning chances. Rook fb1. Queen a3. The white rooks look good, but in fact what are they doing on that b file? And now bishop e5. And that to me looks as though white is running out of ideas. I mean, taking play back, white might have some problems in this position anyway. You know, black can lead up to the move e5, he can play a move like maybe rook e8, and then e5, and then the pawn on c3 becomes exposed. Well, it's hard to see what white's going to do, how he takes his position further. So Loshkarev thinks I'd better play bishop e5 in order to, well, let my knight get back into the game, actually. But black is very happy with that because he takes the knight and is now able for the first time to play a tactical move himself. Rook b8, taking full note that if white takes twice on b8, he gets mated after queen c1. Check. So that is a fairly useful move from black. I mean, the last couple of moves have really improved black's position. And now rook f1 was a rather miserable reply from white. White just admits that his attack has broken down. All right, e6. Well, now black is clearly better. You know, one can say that without any doubt whatsoever. All right, f4. Again, white must try moves like that. He has to. Otherwise, there's no hope. You can't just play neutral moves in a position like this because your entire queen side is about to fall off the board. And f5 was played. As I say, white must play in this manner. But g takes f5. And just don't see it for white. Queen f3. Black continues to adopt an unbelieving attitude and takes on c2. Queen h5. I mean, basically white's reduced to playing for cheapos in this position. There really isn't anything threatening here. I mean, okay, there's a threat of knight g5 and he's threatening f7 maybe, but black easily deals with both those threats by bringing his queen back to e7. And now white continues with g4. Just pure desperation in my view. Okay, now comes a very good defensive move. Rook e2. And that more or less busts what white is doing. Black's main point is that after, let's see, g takes f5, he's going to go rook takes e5. And then the white attack just breaks down completely, given that f6 is answered by queen c5 check. And black wins ruinous amounts of material. And rook e2, well, black's just threatening to take on e5 anyway. So g5 was played. It had to be played. Black mustn't forget that suddenly his rook is on pre. So rook takes e5, rook f4, and now rook e4. There's really not much to say anymore. That initiates a final exchange of pieces, and then the extra material must tell. G takes h6, bishop takes h6. Black sees no reason to refuse the offer to bring his bishop into the game. Rook takes e4. Okay, thank you very much. D takes e4. All the pawns are covering the squares. The king gets out of the pin. Queen comes in. And the final entry, queen d2 check, after which white has nothing better than to just resign this position. I mean, he's 3 pawns down. So that will be a fairly typical game for this line. Going back to b takes c3, it's a little bit suspicious. I think d5 and c5 is a good answer. Black's looking to develop his knight to c6 and then his bishop to either f5 or g4. He's looking to long-term molest the white pawn structure. And white is reduced in this line to outright attack. There's no plan B. This is what makes me very suspicious about this line from white's point of view. There's no plan B, no way back. White must attack. I must say, I don't really believe it.
மறக்காம சர்ப்ரைஸ் பண்ணுங்க. Thank you.